Joining me now is Dan Gonzalez. He's General Manager of Teamship at College Board. Dan, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramona. It's great to be here.
I was very interested in what Teamship is. It sounds like it's an internship program, but it might have a little bit of a twist to make sure it's equitable for everyone. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so you can think of it as a reimagined internship where teams of students solve real problems for real businesses. And all the while, these teams of students are getting coaching from a trained and certified educator. The reimagined part is it's all team-based problem solving. And it's designed to be delivered at school during the school day. And so when I was a younger guy, I needed an internship. And so I went to my dad and I said, "Hey, Dad, I think I need an internship. Can you help me out?" He made a phone call. Within a week, I had an internship, no resume, no interview. And this is what happens when you have social capital and family connections. But the vast majority of students don't have those kinds of opportunities at the ready. And so from the beginning, when we designed Teamship, we wanted to make sure we were doing it in such a way that it could be implemented where students are, and that's at school during the school day. So that's part of the reimagining of it.
I really do appreciate that because I have seen that throughout the years, where you live in a certain zip code, you have that social capital. You have, as you said, someone could call a parent and say, "Please help me. I need this internship. It's important for my career building." So how are you making this, how are you spreading this? How's it getting into schools?
Yeah. So the way that it works is we partner with school districts, and oftentimes that is through a career and technical education director at the district level. And we work with them to plan their teamship implementation. That includes identifying educators, training and certifying them through our coaching institute. And that's about a 30-hour professional development and certification process. And then we provide them the background support that they need to implement Teamship in their classes. So that might be as kind of a capstone module at the end of a semester inside of an existing course, or it might be a whole standalone course that lasts a semester or a year long. So the key to this kind of scaling model is we are training the trainers, we're training teachers to implement Teamship for their students. What we have found along the way over the last 10 years is that a lot of things that educators have time for and are amazing at, namely coaching students, but they don't have the time to be out in the community establishing connections with industry and employers. And so that's one of the pieces of the background support that we provide. We do full service employer engagement and management so that the teacher can focus on what they do best, which is coaching the students. So it's training the teacher and then providing the support around them to make this a sustainable effort.
Well, I'm interested in that because every school district probably, across the country has different jobs, different industries. Are you helping select those industries, or is the district identifying them and you're just kind of managing them?
Yeah, great question. So we have our own network of close to 800 businesses at this point that we've worked with over the last 9 or 10 years. But the way we start the conversation with school districts is we say, "Hey, look, we imagine you are engaging employers in your community. Maybe you've struggled to engage certain employers that you want to engage. Could this be an opportunity to get them through the door? If so, why don't you make the warm handoff and then we will take it from there. We'll onboard them, we'll screen them, we'll scope the problem with them, we'll schedule them, et cetera." So we do that in partnership with the school district, but oftentimes they will say, "No, we'd love for you to just kind of go for it." And sometimes we're drawing from our network. Other times we are doing cold outreach in new communities, but we are kind of ever expanding across the country to build that network of employers.
A- And give me an example of how this works with the students, because you're saying that they are problem solving.
Mhm.
So you have a cohort of students, as you said, maybe it's a capstone project. What is it, 10, 15 or more or less? And then how do they work with that business?
Yeah. So typically the teams of students are 3 or 4. And up to 3 teams can solve a single problem for a business at the same time. So you can imagine you're a teacher in a course and you've got 16 or 20 students. You might have 4 or 5 teams solving problems for 2 different businesses. The teamship cycle typically takes anywhere between 25 and 40 hours, and that can be done in a condensed period as short as a week long if you're doing it, say, over the summer. Or if you're doing it inside of a course and you're meeting for an hour or 90 minutes a day, you can imagine that would take 4 to 5 weeks to get through a full teamship cycle. So at the beginning of the cycle, the certified educator is training the students on a set of tools and mindsets that they want students to bring to the work. And then students are kind of self-managing their team meetings with the support of their teacher coach as they kind of work through a design process. They meet with the business partner 3 times along the way. And by the end, they're proposing their solution back to the business partner in generally a public setting, parents, school leaders, et cetera, community members. Those kind of culminating experiences look more like business meetings than pitch events. So imagine students sitting around a table with the business partner, presenting their thinking, presenting their work, presenting their solution, their insights into the business problem. And then there's a question and answer period to kind of dig down a little bit deeper into the student's process and thinking. And the business partner is showing up as a real person looking for real solutions. These are all real, meaningful, and urgent problems. And the business partner is evaluating, can I take this back to my team? Is this a solution that we can implement? What we have found is that the real stakes of this, and I don't just mean real world learning, I mean real stakes. There's a person across the table that cares deeply about the work and they have not found a solution to their problem. The real stakes completely change the way students show up. And that shouldn't be a surprise, right? All of us want meaning in our work. When students know it matters to someone else, it totally changes their engagement. And that's been one of the most fun parts of this work.
And this is a chance for students, in a high school students, to learn some of the skills that will eventually they'll probably need in the workforce anyway. Durable skills is
Mm-hmm.
one of them. Talk a little bit about how the instructors might help encourage that and help that along.
Yeah, that's such a good question. We have found it does take some transition time to help teachers move from a more of a stand and deliver content approach to facilitating an experience like this. What we do is we have kind of 4 big learning objectives for Teamship. They are 4 mindsets or attitudes we want students to bring to the work: analytical mindset, design mindset, collective mindset, and self-aware. There are a lot of groups and a lot of frameworks out there. These map more or less to pretty much any framework that you might see with regard to durable skills. But here's the key to this that we discovered early on. If you say to a team of students, hey, be more analytical or be more design minded, they don't know what that means. Those are abstractions. And so over the course of maybe a year back in 2018, we developed a whole set of tools, behaviors, and actions that we coach students on. We teach them how to use, and then we coach them on them throughout the cycle so that they can actually behave against those attitudes and mindsets. So we try to make it concrete. So if, let's say an example, 4 students sitting around a table and you're only hearing from 1 or 2 of the students, so you're lacking that equity of voice, which is hurting your collective mindset, right? The coach might say, hey, what tools can you grab out of your toolkit to help you hear from all 4 voices? Students will know what that means. They've been coached on that. They've practiced that. And so they have something concrete to grab onto that will help them be more collective in their work. And I think it's one of the things I think we've realized over the years is that in many similar work-based learning settings, I think as educators, we assume that the work stops once we've connected the students with the employer. And actually, that's just the beginning. And if we want students to develop these durable skills, they have to be coached on them. They need proactive, intensive coaching. And Teamship is built around that kind of coaching mindset.
And I think that might answer a question that comes to mind, or you maybe can elaborate a little bit more, is what is the benefit to have this class-based team approach as opposed to maybe an internship where you go into an office and you report to someone, but
Yeah.
you don't have that collaboration. I'm sure you could sit in and listen and you learn something. So I'm not knocking traditional ones, but what's the
Yeah.
difference do you feel in the experience?
Yeah. So, at the highest level, Teamship is designed to prepare students to be great team-based problem solvers. We feel like that is the uniquely human job description of the AI economy and the future economy. Can you work with other people to do really hard things? All problems are human. All humans are driven by emotion. And so if we want to solve the hardest human problems, we're going to need human beings to do that. Yes, using AI as a tool, but if you can't work with others to solve complex, novel problems, our position is you're going to struggle to make it in the modern future labor market. And so this is the kind of the key focus of Teamship, is helping students become better team-based problem solvers. A lot of internships are great. They tend to be more individual focused. They tend to be more task based,
Mhm.
um, or kind of routine in nature. So we're wanting Teamship to focus on that kind of team based problem solving element, and so we want the design and the educator to be really focused on facilitating that kind of an experience.
And you've got a network of businesses.
Mhm.
Any success stories where someone has helped, a team has helped solve a problem, or maybe it's led to work for someone?
Yes, I'll give you my favorite example. There's a fantastic business in Wilmington, North Carolina called Opioid. They use data science and artificial intelligence to optimize care for patients with opioid addiction. And so the founder, actually the late David Reeser, who passed away recently, unfortunately, but he came to a team of Teamship students and he said, look, I am building this business. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a tech entrepreneur. I'm finding this space is so hot. All of these competitors are popping up everywhere. And I'm spending so much of my time trying to track my competition that I'm losing focus on growing my own business. And I need some help, team. So a couple of teams of students worked on this over the course of 30, 40 hours. And one of the mandates, one of the directives he gave the students was, I really want you to think outside the box, think creatively here. So they interviewed David a couple of times. They interviewed some subject matter experts. They did some research. They came up with insights into the problem. They started testing some solutions. They came back to David 5 weeks later and they said, we've got a plan for you. Our plan that we have mapped out is going to turn your competitors into your customers through data sharing arrangements. And he said, wow, I love this. Team, would you like to come and continue your work on this over the summer? So that's an example of, I think, kind of it emphasizes, I think, the open-endedness of the problem scope, which is really important. This is not project-based learning. It is problem focused. We want students to be able to take any path that they want to tackle the problem. And him giving them that latitude and that freedom allowed them to think creatively. It's not every time the employer invites students to continue on afterwards, but this was one case where that happened, and it's always really exciting and gratifying to see that.
And if anybody out there, any school district or any business is interested in taking part in Teamships, Teamship, where can they get the information?
Yes, feel free to visit teamship.us. That will take you to our website, and we will connect you with the right person to speak with.
Dan Gonzalez, thank you very much for sitting down with me.
Ramona, thanks for the work you do. Really appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.